thousands of bar staff are going to be trained in how to deal with incidents of spiking under government plans to tackle violence against women and girls.
The Prime Minister has also confirmed the government is still committed to making spiking a criminal offence. And the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, Jess Phillips, joins us now. Jess Phillips, just to start on spiking, I think a lot of our viewers, especially people my age and older, will think spiking is where you put alcohol into somebody's drink more than they expect, a double or a shot of vodka in a pint. But actually, when we're talking about spiking here, this is something much more dangerous and often involving drugs.
Yeah, I mean, actually, alcohol spiking with more alcohol is still one of the prevalences that we see. But yes, you're absolutely right. We're talking about whether it's drugs that debilitate people or even drugs, that sort of classic drugs that people might take, but without the consent of the person who has been given them.
And coming up to Christmas, lots of parties. What is the thing, before we get onto the courts and the law, if you are talking to your kids about going out to parties, what do you tell them about how to be safe?
Well, funnily enough, I had a chat with my son, who's 19, yesterday about this very announcement, and he was saying that it is something that really worries him and his friends, especially his female friends. Look, I have to say that I am loath, whilst as a parent, I tell my kids to be careful, always be mindful, always look out for each other, I'd say, is probably the best advice that I try and give my children. But I am loath to say that people should change their behaviour in order that they don't fall victim to crime. It's the perpetration of this crime and the environments that those people are in that have the responsibility in these instances.
Of course. But, in instances of burglary, you tell people, don't you, to, lock up their houses and put in, as many security measures as possible. I know what you mean. Those people who are guilty are the ones doing the spiking. Look, yeah. As Ed says, I feel like I'm of a completely different generation. I don't go to these kinds of places anymore. I wouldn't know what to do. And also, I know that you want to put more money into training up bar staff. How easy is it to spot someone who's been spiked as opposed to someone who's had too much to drink, especially if alcohol spiking is part of the spiking problem?
Well, look, nobody's saying that it will be completely easy to spot, although I have to say, just moments from where I am in Digbeth, my friend, we were in a club together many years ago, like you, Susanna. I'm not really into going out to pubs and clubs quite so much anymore. And it's a sudden change. She suddenly was on the floor and not at all compos mentis. But look, if there is, for example, a young woman in a pub or a club environment who is not compos mentis, it doesn't really matter what the reason is. There should be care put in place to make sure that she is then safe. And those who are with her, you can talk to her friends, can't you? I could ask somebody and say, look, has she been drinking before she came out? Why is this sudden incapacity?
Now, you said in the manifesto it will be a new offence, but it wasn't mentioned in the King's speech as a specific crime. We also know that the courts are inundated, and particularly with crimes against women and girls. I mean, lawyers are warning of an implosion of the criminal justice system, and some rape trials are being scheduled as far away as September 2027. I can't imagine what that is like for a victim or someone accused, that you might be waiting 3 years. Is that one of the reasons that you've had to not plough ahead with making spiking an offence?
Well, look, no, that is a justice system that we have inherited, that you're absolutely right in your assessment, and I've handled cases of rape victims who've waited 7 years, actually, is the worst case that I've ever come across, which is one of the reasons why in our manifesto and what we are looking to roll out is to fast-track those rape cases within our court system and make specialist rape rape courts, and also to ensure that rape victims have the appropriate support with rape advocates. We've also committed to. But look, you're absolutely right, but that's not the reason. We are making this a specific, that's what I'm here today to announce. We will be making a specific crime of spiking, and we will be doing that in this parliamentary session.
OK. Well, what are you going to do about the Ministry of Justice and this implosion of the court system? I mean, how soon are you bringing in fast-track rape courts?
Well, the Justice Secretary will, in due course, announce the plans, particularly to do that. We recognise that this is a real problem. But look, we've been in power for 4 months. I'm not going to fix a broken justice system overnight. But the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy is a mission of this government to massively improve, reduce the number of people being victimised in this way, but to massively improve systems, whether that's health services, justice systems, wherever it is, housing, with a focus on victims of domestic violence, victims of sexual violence, victims of spiking and other crimes. It's going to take time, and I would be lying to you if I said that I could do it overnight, and I'm not in the business of lying to you, Susanna.
Is it about time only or resources? We've been seeing, many of our viewers will have been following the terrible case of Dominique Pellicot, the French woman whose case has been happening over the last few weeks. She was spiked repeatedly by her husband and then raped allegedly multiple times by men. And I think one of those really shocking things to see, the trauma that she and her family are facing, the perpetrators in local bars, while she is being put through the ringer in public. She's chosen this in the courts. Do we at the moment have a justice system which supports women who come forward with an allegation? I'm not talking about money and resources and time. I'm talking about the way the whole system works.
Look, I would be lying if I said that what I've found in cases, just to pay massive credit to Giselle Pellicot, it's unbelievable, actually, the strength and how brave it is in being public about it. But I would be lying if I said that over the years that I have worked to support rape victims within the system, that I found it always to be perfect, caring, kind, and, as you say, resourced. So that has to be a fundamental part of our mission in government to halve violence against women and girls, is to make sure that when somebody comes forward, that their first response is good, which is one of the reasons why we've put domestic abuse specialists. We will be rolling out to the whole country domestic abuse specialists in every 999 call centre, so that when that first call is made, that there is a good and kind and caring response, because it isn't easy. It isn't easy, and the system isn't perfect at the moment by any stretch of the imagination, and maybe we'll never make it perfect, because having suffered such a terrible and traumatic crime, actually there's no perfect system, but it could and it should be a lot better than it is.
Talking about perfect systems, Jess Phillips, we have the assisted dying vote coming up this week. It is probably the thing that is dominating discussion. There is a free vote. You are open, aren't you, about the fact that you back the bill, you back the idea of introducing assisted dying. What do we do? Because the biggest issue seems to be, how do we protect vulnerable individuals from being encouraged? Coercion obviously would lead to a prison sentence. But how do we avoid them feeling pressured, encouraged? How do we stop them feeling guilty about being a burden, in order to make sure that we don't get people asking for an assisted death who actually don't really want one?
Well, we have to make sure that those who interact with them in the system, which is, as laid out in the bill, 2 doctors and a judge, and the bill, even if it passes on Friday, it'll have 6 months of scrutiny in Parliament and then 2 years to actually implement it. So loads of thought will go into exactly how that looks, but we have to make sure that they can get to the crux of that. I wish that I could stop people who had terminal illnesses feeling guilty. I really, really, really do. I think that that's not something the government could ever actually achieve. I think everybody feels, you know, and I'm going through this situation in my family at the moment, you want to do everything you can to keep that person alive for as long as is possible. You don't want them to have pain. But we have to make sure that, I think, and one of the things that we will be striving to do as a government is ensuring that all frontline practitioners have the right training on things like coercion and control, not just in this instance, but making sure that people can respond to people coming forward about all manner of coercions.
OK. Jess Phillips, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much indeed.